start the session. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 214th webinar of our Saturday webinar series hosted by Managed Center for Innovation and Agripreneurship. Myself, Dr. Rahul, here, working as a Managed Fellow. We are proud to have organized 213 consecutive webinars covering a broad range of topics related to the agri-startup ecosystem, conducted every Saturday since October 10, 2020. This open webinar series, in contrast to the many training and mentoring program, is more widely accessible and aim to benefit a large number of aspiring entrepreneurs and other stakeholders. Managed Center for Innovation and Agripreneurship is recognized as a center of excellence in agribusiness incubation and acts as a knowledge partner to strengthen, guide, and demonstrate best practices for Agribusiness Incubator, operating under the esteemed Nestle Institute of Agriculture Extension Management. We feel proud to announce that our center has nurtured 940 entrepreneurs and supported over 468 startups across various sectors within the agriculture domain. We navigate innovation from ideation to full-scale commercialization with our unique methodology that gives a robust ecosystem from discovering ideas to delivering high-value proposition in a sustainable environment. Imagine a place where your ideas are not just heard, but celebrated and honed into high-value proposition. Our comprehensive support system offering expert guidance and specialized training in crucial areas such as agro-processing, post-harvest technologies, value addition, farm mechanization, animal husbandry, fishery, dairy, commodity trading, supply chain management, and agri-consultancy. We are not just about business, but we are building futures. Our commitment to your success is unwavering. We work to refine your concept, empower you to expand your ventures, ensuring you have the tools, knowledge, and confidence to navigate the challenges of agribusiness world. So today's webinar is particularly exciting as we explore the theme of agri-startups in mitigating the climate change. So to discuss this topic, we have two esteemed speakers with us, and our speakers are Mr. S. Jain, Climate Finance Leader, MITI Labs, and Ms. Meenakshi Bhupalan, Co-founder, EATA Sustainable Solutions. So our first speaker for today's session is Mr. S. Jain, sir. So he's a leader in global climate finance with 6 years of experience across agriculture, forestry, health, and finance. At MITI Labs, he leads strategy and growth that helps scale sustainable agriculture to lakhs of Indian farmers. So before this, he worked with BlackRock and helped top 5 global banks designs for ESG roadmaps. He graduated as a chemical engineer from IIT Kanpur and also founded a think tank in agroforestry called Green Road. So with this short introduction, I don't need to all of you to wait. So we shall start the session. So I'm inviting Yashjain sir to take over the session.
Thank you, Dr. Ahelia, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'll just share my screen, and could I get access to the presenting mode?
Yes, sir.
All right, just give me a moment. Awesome. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
All right. In line with today's topic of agri-startups in India, I would like to focus on what MITI Labs is doing, and I would also cover a brief overview of carbon markets in India pertaining to agriculture. So the reason we started MITI Labs is because rice is a significant crop that caters to roughly half the global population for food, and we don't know that it's a big emitter of methane. So rice accounts for 12% of global emissions, which is equivalent to the entire aviation industry. And 1 kilogram of rice consumes roughly about 3,000 liters of water. And if you look at the scale, it is equivalent to 1/3 of the global freshwater. So it is actually very important to combat climate change that we have to look at regenerative rice practices. And this range for alternate wetting and drying, dry seeded rice, and stubble management, no burn, and changing the climate smart fertilizer management. If all of this is incorporated collectively, we can reduce about 1 gigaton of CO2 emissions globally, which is like 2% of global emissions. I'll just double down on why methane is important. Methane is 86 times more potent or harmful than CO2 as a global warming gas. And this is a gas that cannot be removed from the atmosphere using direct air capture or CDR. That is why it is important to prevent leakage of methane at the root instead of waiting for it to being emitted and then have its half-life and then convert into CO2. So by changing practices on ground, We are bringing in new technologies using satellite, on-ground data, and also building new sensors that help us accurately gauge what is happening with methane, NO2, and various gases emissions on ground, and also to understand how well the farmers are adopting these practices. Because the challenge with scale in India is that we need credible information in real time so that we can help the farmers understand and change practices, and we can provide support wherever it is necessary. So to use this, we use satellites along with our AI data to create a digital trace, or like a map. Think of it like a Google map, but it is pertaining to all the rice fields and farmers within the state of Telangana and in India, so we are able to accurately identify what is happening in each field. This is a dashboard view from our satellite platform, where we can see that each field has its own boundary, and we can see how much water was saved, how much emissions were reduced in that particular field, whether the farmer practiced AWD or sustainable activities or not, and accordingly, there's a score is generated. And we are linking this technology to a revenue source called carbon credits. That helps farmers get up to rupees 2000 per hectare in a season. So this is a sizable additional income from the farmers, which involves no additional investment from the farmer side. So Mitti Labs is a company. From our equity capital and from our investors, we have pool and money. We provide farmers the source of new technology. We teach them new practices, and at the end of the season, we share revenue once the credits are generated and sold. So we talked a lot about carbon credits. I'm not sure if a lot of you are aware of this uh, financial instrument called carbon credit. So just wanted to do a quick poll. If you could just drop in the chat if you've worked with carbon credits before, or you knew about it, or have heard faintly, or this is the first time you are hearing about it. This will help me cater the discussion going forward.
Participants, you can keep your answers in chat box.
All right, I'm unable to see the chat box. But yeah, I can see the comments coming in. It's mostly around heard about it. Um, all right. So I'll just quickly share a quick overview of what a carbon credit is. So one carbon credit is equivalent of 1 ton of carbon dioxide removal. I know it sounds quite absurd ki 1 ton of carbon dioxide, like it is gas. How do we weigh it? How do we measure it? It seems a bit far-fetched, but there are various scientific methodologies being developed, and it is being accepted globally to quantify carbon dioxide as a ton of emission. And this is, since it is gas, it can be globally traded without any borders. So one credit is looked at 1 ton of carbon dioxide or its equivalent that is prevented or from being emitted or removed from the atmosphere as a result of a carbon project. So there has to be a project which is doing some activities to prevent this carbon dioxide from leaking into the atmosphere. There are two markets specifically. One is a compliance market. Secondly is a voluntary market. As you can see, compliance market is huge. Think about Europe, California, Japan. These have huge sizable chunks that the government and NGOs are pooling together funds to put investments into renewable energy, forestry, and agricultural projects. This is done at a very large scale. Voluntary carbon markets is something that I'll talk in detail ahead. It is related to Gold Standard and Vera. These are voluntary registries. These are something that it is prevalent more in India, where project developers take up new projects, design it, and then sell the carbon credits to companies who are looking to voluntarily reduce their emissions. Um, there are different types of carbon projects. We look at clean cooking stoves, renewable energy, carbon capture technology, and nature-based solutions. These are the top four major contributors of the list or portfolio of carbon projects in India. The latest one is carbon capture technology, and for our discussion today, we'll focus on nature-based solutions. Nature-based solution can be divided into afforestation or forestry-related projects, regenerative agriculture, wetland restoration, biochar. This is the area where we are operating. and mangroves, seagrass, meadows, and ocean-related restoration. This helps not only reduce CO2, but also progress towards goals of biodiversity, improve livelihoods, and help the communities adapt to changing climates, and overall help the local community and that country meet certain NDCs and SDG criteria at a global level. Just a quick overview of what are the various actors involved in the carbon project. So Metti Labs is currently the project developer. So we are the company who designs, thinks about the project, gets in funding, and actually goes on the ground and starts executing it with the local community. We work closely with an entity called the registry. So you can think of registry as the regulator, which sets the norm of how the carbon project would work out and what are various methodologies, and they track the emission reduction. There is an auditor called the VVB, Validation and Verifying Body, that comes in and does a third party independent audit of the project to certify that a project has met the regulations of the registry and I can start issuing credits. Third is the implementation partner, which is the most important group. Implementation partner is a local NGO that works with the local community or the farming community and helps them teach new agricultural practices. Fourth is the buyer. This is a corporate, government, or a carbon fund which buys carbon credits and help give revenue or profits to the farmers and also support the costs of implementation, registry, and VVB. I'll just briefly cover the methodology. So there are various methodologies, more than 300 different types of methodologies listed under VERA and Gold Standard. These are the top two carbon registries. Um, Pertaining to us, we can look at methodologies within forest and agricultural domain. This includes regenerative agricultural practices, soil carbon reduction, biochar, and alternate wetting and drying of rice methane that we currently use for our own projects. It's actually a long process to register a carbon project. It takes about 1.5 years from the design of the project to ultimately issuing credits. And we need to closely work with the registry and the VVB to ensure that we are meeting all their guidelines and we keep sharing updates with them. I'm happy to dig deep into this if anyone is interested. So just a background on quality assurance. So it is very important that the carbon credit is additional. It meets safeguards. It's verifiable, permanent, sustainable, and there is no overestimation. Additional means that the carbon dioxide or the carbon project should only have been possible because of additional funding coming in. This should not have been an activity which would have otherwise happened without additional funding. Think about renewable energy. It is no longer additional because people are automatically adopting it to save costs on their electricity bills. Versus, let's say, direct air capture, which is very technology intensive or capex intensive technology. That's where funding is needed to make that possible. And accordingly, there are various other benchmarks that each carbon credit needs to meet that determines its quality and hence the price when the buyer buys the carbon credit. And naturally, with any business, there are various risks in carbon credit project too. Majority of the risks are during the project design and implementation phase. And as the project grows, it passes various thresholds and guidelines, the risk reduces. And once we issue the credits, there is very low risk of reversal or the credits being cancelled. Initially, the risks include unable to getting financing for the projects, or we are unable to estimate accurately how many credits we will generate. There might be certain issues following the methodology by which the carbon project might not be registered. And pertaining to agriculture, there are new technologies coming in. So remote sensing is something that we have been using very actively using satellite, LiDAR, and AI ML model to determine on-ground practices. There are new strain of bionutrients or biostimulants being developed to improve the fertility of the soil while reducing their emissions. And there is a whole genre of smart seeds that are resilient for the changing climate. They are drought resistant, they can cope with harsh or extreme weather and even flooding scenarios. So I'll just pause here. Thank you everyone for your time.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for taking us to the journey of MITI Labs and how it is using AI and satellite imagery technology by creating digital trade and helping the farmers by teaching them to innovative practices. And you also discussed about carbon markets and how it works and who are the actors involved in it and what are the benefits and some new technologies to mitigate the climate change. So thank you so much, sir. So the participants, if you have any questions, you can keep in chat box or also you can raise your hand. So the questions will be taken up after the second speaker presentation. So meanwhile, yes, sir, kindly be in line also. So we'll take up the questions after the second speaker presentation. So to introduce our second speaker, let me call my colleague Josephine.
Thank you, Rahalya. Good morning, participants and speakers. Today, our second speaker, Ms. Meenakshi Bhupalan, environmental engineer and zero waste enthusiast, is the founder of EETA Sustainable Solution, alumni of Tamil Nadu Agriculture University and National Institute of Science. Ms. Meenakshi champions circular economy and sustainable designs, driving efficient environment through innovative strategies and best practices. I welcome to the today's session, ma'am. Handing over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Let me just quickly share the screen. Ma'am, I still can't share the screen right now. Can't share
Yes,
content.
I'll make you as a present. Yes, you can share now.
Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So good morning, one and all, and thank you, Manish, for this amazing opportunity. I'm Meenakshi. I'm the co-founder of Eater Sustainable Solutions, and we are into converting biodegradable waste into sustainable feed for the poultry sector, for the sector. So we critically solve two major problems. One is waste management, and the second is the energy. I mean, environmentally impactful, very pollution causing protein sector. So these are the two sectors that we work on. So I will be mostly talking about the poultry sector today, and how it leads to an immense pollution. So we know that agriculture is one of the major contributors of GHG emissions, and among that, livestock and poultry is also a major contributor. So to first look into certain statistics, the state of current poultry sector in India, the poultry production is around 9.29 million tons, which was the statistics from 2021 to 2022, and the poultry feed production accounts for about 27 million tons. So it's extremely huge, and we are the eighth largest producer of poultry globally. And talking about the greenhouse gas emissions, around 37.5 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions are being emitted for every ton of meat that is being produced. So the um, while the sector is really huge, the problems that are to be tackled here is that the fluctuating soya meal and fish meal cost, which are the major sources of protein in the poultry field sector, and the very high GHG impact that is associated with the feed production. So 60 to 70% of the cost comes from feed for poultry, and it accounts for the highest greenhouse gas emissions among the other contributors when it comes to raising poultry. And this 60 to 70% feed cost leads to lower margins for poultry farmers. So we wanted to specifically tackle this problem, and we have come up with an idea where we convert biodegradable waste like food waste, market waste, fruits and vegetable market waste, and industrial food waste residues into insect-based animal feed. So we introduced a larvae called black soldier fly. So the larvae has a very voracious appetite. It can consume waste three times faster than any other insect. So consumes the waste, and the fully grown larvae is harvested. It is a really good source of protein, having good amino acid profile. So therefore, it is converted as a poultry and aqua feed. And the second product that we get is the compost, which is nothing but the insect droppings. So it is basically the excreta of the larvae. So it has really good nutrition profile, and therefore it is being used as a compost or natural fertilizer for organic farms. So these are the two products that we are able to make. So here we are solving the problem of waste management and also simultaneously coming up with two marketable end products. So talking about why insect farming, why not soya, and why don't we stick with the conventional sources of protein? Why should we look into insect protein? Firstly, it is more sustainable because it is being produced from waste, unlike soya, where it is very energy intensive, and also land use is also very high compared to insect production. And poultry, of course, is so much more higher than soya and insect production. And next comes meat production. Red meat production is even higher. So I'll show the statistics in a bit. So insect farming solves two problems, as I mentioned earlier. It solves the problem of waste management. The other technologies which might consume 45 to 60 days for conversion of waste into useful end products, our insect based technology is three times faster. In a matter of 15 days it can convert waste into animal feed. And it is a versatile technology which can be used to manage different types of biodegradable waste, ranging from high moisture content containing food waste, or high fiber containing market waste like fruits and vegetable waste, and high protein, high fiber waste. So all kinds of biodegradable waste can be processed using this insect-based technology. And currently, we are using the existing infrastructure that is being set up by the municipal corporation for managing biodegradable waste. So we do not have to create new infrastructures. We do not have to wait for longer periods of time for us to convert waste into useful products. So, on one side, while it solves the waste management problem, more importantly, it is an excellent source of protein. It is a complete source of protein with a good amino acid profile, and which will increase the production of meat when we substitute this protein from soya. And as mentioned, the sustainable source of protein, it is 25 times more sustainable compared to other sources of protein like meat production. And it also has additional benefits like having antimicrobial properties, hypoallergenic properties, and it is really having good palatability. So we can find chickens and other poultry searching for insects while they are they're allowed to graze. So we have this is a power packed source of protein. So it is a better alternative compared to the existing sources of protein. So this is how we currently have implemented our project. We have signed an MoU with the Madurai Corporation, who will source the waste for us. The waste is transported to the microcomposting center, where we pre-process the waste and introduce the insect larvae into it. And we also have an insect breeding setup. And finally, once the processing is over, we will harvest the larvae from the frass or the compost and deliver it as an animal feed. So this is how it happens. I have a short video. So this is how it happens. This is the behind the scenes of our process. This is how we process waste in our microcomposting center. So this is the baby larvae, and once waste is being consumed, it all grows in size, and the fully grown larvae is harvested. This is the insect breeding cage where we get our regular supply of eggs, which goes into the next processing of waste. And this is my team. So, talking about the product profile, we offer BSF in the format of eggs. So, whoever wants to set up their own insect farming in their own poultry farm so that they can get their own feed from their farm, we sell BSF eggs for them. And we also supply larvae in different forms, in the live format, in the dried format, and also in the powdered meal format. So, talking about the protein percentage, in the dried larvae has around 38 to 40 percentage protein, while the BSF meal has around 60 percentage of protein. So, this is comparable with the poultry, the chicken source of protein. And the other product, as I mentioned, is BSF compost, which goes for gardens or corporate buildings, horticultural, agricultural farms. So we are solving the problem by the farmer is basically becoming self-reliant when it comes to producing their own feed at their own premises. So this will substantially reduce the feed cost. So this is the environmental impact. Here's a comparison of different sources of protein like meal, poultry, soya, and BSF. So, if we look at the land use consumption, the carbon dioxide emissions, and also water consumption, it is substantially less, very, very less compared to the other sources of protein. So this is the impact that we will be able to create. And what is the impact for the farmers? They will be able to consistently produce feed in their own premises, and they do not have to cut on their margins. This will increase their margins substantially, and also there will be a consistent feed cost because this product is being produced from waste. They do not have to. The one major problem that when it comes to poultry feed is that the fluctuating cost of soya meal and poultry meal. So when we have our own source of insect meal, or even if they purchase insect meal from us, they're able to have consistent feed cost, which is substantially lesser compared to the other sources of protein. So this will help them to reduce cost further and improve their margins. So this is my team. We are a team of 4 co-founders. I just wanted to highlight. So thank you so much for this opportunity. So I just wanted to highlight how better we can do in terms of the poultry sector. When it comes to sustainable agriculture, the livestock and poultry sector is a major contributor to GHG emissions, and feed is the major contributor when it comes to poultry production. So there are alternative protein sources that are available that the poultry farmers and the medium to large scale farmers can look into in order to come up with a sustainable source of protein, and as well as reduce costs and increase margin. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. Thank you so much for discussing about how ITA sustainable solution works, and you have discussed starting from what is the status of poultry farming in India and what are the major problems being faced in the poultry industry. And you also discussed about how importance of insect farming and how it is solving the waste managers practices and how it is having the antimicrobial properties and how this your work is contributing to the environmental impact. Thank you so much, ma'am, for discussing. So without delay, we'll take up the questions. So the participants, if you have any questions, you can keep in chat box and you can also raise your hands. So the questions will be taken up now. So I can see few questions in the chat box. I think it's time to take the questions. So Yeshar, Meenakshi ma'am, please be in line and kindly switch on your video so that it will be helpful. So there is a question from Sudha. So she's asking, she want to know the registration process for providing credits to the farmers and what is the process to complete. I think anyone can answer this. Yeshar or Meenakshi ma'am.
Do you want to go, Meenakshi?
Oh, sir, I think you're better in answering that question. It's for you, I guess.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Um, so first we have to identify the registry we want to work with. Gold Standard and Vera, as I mentioned, are the two leading registries, but there are other registries as well. Even the Indian government are developing their own Indian Carbon Market Protocol, which will look at new registries or new technologies within the agricultural domain. So from this registry, we have to select a project type. So when we look at agriculture, there is soil carbon, biochar, rice growing, agroforestry, and many others that we can take up. Once we identify the technology, then we discuss with farmers and do a feasibility assessment on ground to see if we are able to actually execute it on ground. And accordingly, we work with an implementation partner and an NGO that helps scale that technology or execution from a group of small farmers to a large group of farmers and across various villages and districts. And doing it at scale, we generate a lot of evidences and create data and reports that we then send to registry and auditors to get their approval, which ultimately leads to issuance.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the clear response. Sudha, I think it's helpful for you. So I think Venkat Pindipolu. He wants to us to unmute. Josephine, can you please help me unmute Venkat so that he will ask question directly to the speakers? Venkat Pindipolu. Yeah, please unmute. Venkat, so are you there? Josephine, yeah, we are doing, no problem.
Actually, so I just actually got a one quick question to Ash. I think so
Venkat, you can switch on your video also, no problem.
I
If you are
don't have this
comfortable,
since
yeah.
I'm running on a web actually, so not
Yeah,
sure. I
yeah,
think
no
how to
problem
switch on.
then. Yeah,
Okay.
okay, continue.
Sure. Yash, I think I'm a co-founder of a company called Carbonment. I just got a one question, right? So, what's your experience on VM0042 and AWD projects right now in India, and what is their actually success rate?
Hi Venkat, thank you for highlighting this question. So VM42 success rate in India is very low because VM42 is a very robust and also complicated methodology. There are many companies developing projects under VM42, but I don't think any has led to a issuance of credit. And in AWD, there are two different methodologies. First is the Vera one, which was in doldrums, and the methodology got later cancelled. And this actually put a lot of harm to the projects that were already on ground. And second is the gold standard, which is still existing. And there are multiple project developers like Bayer, Core Carbon X, and Mitti Labs that are working on this technology. Uh, Again, credits have not been issued. It is very early. And overall, if you look at carbon markets, it is still early. That is why it is primarily a VC driven business. And we want to work and are working with a lot of government entities also to help support and scale it on ground.
Yeah, that's where I think my question. I think more driven because we are actually coming from a top-down approach on the carbon projects, right? So it would be actually more sustainable with a bottom-up approach where I think coming together. I think basically where we think that carbon projects are a byproduct of what you're actually kind of doing to the environment, rather than I think carbon projects is not the driver to do what you're actually kind of doing. So then I think it would be kind of an ideal to actually have a more sustainable impact projects kind of gets developed under the grassroots level. Otherwise, I think we're always actually going in these cycles, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that is
you,
a great
Venkat.
thought. Yeah, I'll just pass a quick comment on it. Yeah, that is a great thought. And if you look at it, carbon credits are an additional source of income to farmers along with the sustainable practices that it's doing. So it is always treated as a byproduct, not as the core revenue model for the farmers or for the companies working within it.
Completely agree. Yeah, that's where I think where maybe I think I will actually kind of chat with you personally. I think so after this call, right? I think there is actually always a current collaboration prospects actually kind of available where touch with the bottom up approach projects.
Yeah, I think without delaying, we'll take one more question since we have short time also. So I think there is a question to the Meenakshi ma'am. Oh, so they are asking what quantity of insect larva could be harvested per a kg of waste? Is it sustainable to feed our poultry?
It is definitely sustainable, and the quantity of waste that can be, I mean, larvae that can be produced from 1 ton is 100 kg. So 1:10 is the ratio. So if we process 10 kgs of waste, we'll get 1 kg. 10:1 is the ratio. 10 kg of waste will give us 1 kg of larvae. So I hope it answers, and it is completely safe because the pH of the gut of larvae is really really low, so it will be able to process any microbial contamination that could be possibly present in the waste as well. So it is completely safe and sustainable to use larvae for poultry.
Yes, yes. Thank you, ma'am. So there is one more question from Deb Subrata. So he's asking, could you please, yes, sir, this question is for you. Could you please explain or take me through are you capturing satellite imagery data into an accurate data that can be validated for CO2 credit in short?
Yeah, I'll just take access to share. I'll quickly try to answer this complicated information. If I could have a sharing access, I'll just present my screen.
Yes, yes, let me give, sir. Yes, I think you can share it now.
Okay. Um, Sorry, it's taking a bit some time. All right, I'm having some trouble sharing my screen, but I'll just tell it verbally. So there are various aspects of collecting satellite data. The first is looking at visual imagery. But when we deal with agriculture, visual imagery is blocked by either cloud cover or the canopy of rice, so we can't actually detect what's happening on soil. Then we have different types of bands. So L band, X band, R band data. These are used or identifies based on the scattering ratio or the wavelengths once they hit the soil and are able to even penetrate about 15 centimeter deep into soil and being reflected back. This helps us gauge accurately what the soil hydrology is at a acre level. There are various spectrums or resolutions when it comes to satellite imagery. The most common or commercially available ones are 30 meter or around 25 meter by 25 meter. We work with companies such as NASA, SpaceX, Planet Labs to get proprietary private label data. So we are able to get resolution of 25 centimeter by 25 centimeter. So yep, if there is even a pipe or even a bag placed inside a field, we are able to accurately identify what that bag is. Um, then we also do on-ground assessments by putting gas chambers in the field, which helps us calibrate the satellite data with on-ground emissions. All our emissions or gas vials are sent to an independent laboratory of Government of India, AIRAI, and we also work with ERI to develop these models. So this is a lot put together, and this is again very new. We work closely with NASA. We recently won a grant also for them to help scale and expedite this technology to market.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I think one person wants to ask the question. So meanwhile, my team will unmute him. So by this time, I'll take one question. So there is a question for Meenakshi ma'am. So it's true that feed cost is one of the main contribution to the production cost, but insects might also invite disease to the system. Do you see this as a concern in the long term?
That's a good question, actually. So, it's completely safe to use larvae, and the Insect Research Institute in Bangalore is kind of recommending us to use insect as poultry feed as well. So, as I mentioned, the gut pH is really, really low. It is around 2. So, any kind of microbes that can be present in waste will be definitely, like sort of gone. So, once it goes through the system. So, it is safe. And also, the other part, yeah, it is a major contributor, and in the term, insects are not pest. I mean, this black soldier fly is not a pest because it does not have any mouth parts when it becomes an adult. So it is a non-pest and completely safe. We don't have to worry about the insect infestation or any such worries are not there.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So Tyagarajan, are you there? Tyagarajan, are you there? Okay, then I think he's not available. Tyagarajan, can you unmute your audio and you can speak now? I think we have unmuted you. Please ask your question. Tyagarajan. So okay. Okay, we'll take up one more question. So there's a question from Vijay Lodi. He's asking, can we use meat waste for BSF? Is it safe or not?
Definitely, we can use meat waste as well. So slaughterhouse waste is also a very good source of feed for BSF. So since it already has a lot of protein content, and also landfilling slaughterhouse waste is highly polluting. So feeding it to BSF would be a really good strategy. And we have also tried doing it. Right now in our unit, we are processing food waste and market waste. We're currently not processing slaughterhouse waste, but we have also developed a standardized process for that. So it works really well.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So there is a question from Shuvajit. So he's asking, is there any plan for implementation of carbon project in tea plantation? Huge potential exists in yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Are you hear me? Please.
Yes.
Mulberries are taken from the worms of pattupuchi. The waste is used for this to grow this larvae. Mulberry
Yeah, sir.
is
Yeah,
eaten
I
by
understood, sir.
okay, pattupuchi.
Yeah, sir. Yeah. So
It
actually,
is
what is
eaten all the excreta is taken by your worm. Is it possible?
so we have tried giving poultry droppings to BSF larvae. It works well. So like the silkworms. That's what I think you're talking about. So they on their own can be used as a protein source. We can like dehydrate it, dry it, and use it as a protein source instead of feeding it to BSF.
Yes, Tyagarajan, I think you have got the answer. Thank you. Thank you for asking. So I think, yes, sir. Meanwhile, we'll take up the earlier question. Is there any plan for implementation of carbon project in tea plantation?
Yes. Thank you, Shivajit. There are other companies doing projects in tree plantation. The technology is biochar and ERW. ERW is enhanced rock weathering. Credit reduction potential is somewhere between 2 to 4 credits per hectare. And this is slightly cost intensive. And also the carbon credits are also very costly once sold. So it takes about 3 to 4 years to credibly generate carbon credits from this, but these are a lot in demand right now. And there is a company called Alt Carbon. They are doing this in Darjeeling within their tea plantations.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So I think Vijay Lodi wants to ask one more question. I think my team will unmute him. So by this time, I'll Vijay Lodi. So are you there? Vijay
हेलो
Lodi, are you there? Yes, please ask.
जी नमस्ते। मेरा
Yes,
क्वेश्चन
you can
वही
ask.
है फिर से, जो बीएसएफ के लिए मीट बेस्ड यूज कर सकते हैं क्या? लेकिन यदि जैसे कि जो मीट यूज कर रहे हैं, यदि वो एनिमल को कोई डिसीज थी, तो जो डिसीज क्या अपने बीएसएफ में आके आगे जो पोल्ट्री को यूज कर सकते हैं उसमें आ सकती है क्या?
That's a good question. So actually, when we process the larvae after harvesting it, we will be putting it through so many levels of sterilization. So once for the first one will be blanching it in hot water, and then we will be further sterilizing it, and then we will be drying it. So after these many levels of sterilization, I'm pretty sure the microbes will not carry over. So far there's not been any concern of that sort when it comes to insect larvae as a feed. So slaughterhouse waste, there are a few companies abroad who are using slaughterhouse waste as a feed to BSF, and it's working fine for them. So maybe I'll look into it and get back if you can like chat with me and we can discuss about it. So.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you for the question. And one more question. What makes rice crop unique over the crops to methane reduction? I think, yes, sir, you can take up this question.
Yes, thank you. Rice, for two reasons. Rice is a staple crop for a lot of people in South Asia and Southeast Asia. Roughly one third, say, to half of the global population depends on rice. So it is grown in bulk. It is the second most produced crop. It is a large emitter of methane. So we saw that emissions from rice cultivation is equivalent to the entire global aviation industry. Yet there are easy solutions to reduce these emissions. So by adopting alternate wetting and drying, which takes very low effort for the farmer and also reduces water, we are able to save up to 30 to 40% of methane emissions. So it is very low cost, low intensive, low effort solution to make a larger dent in the whole climate change.
Yes, thank you. So, Meenakshi ma'am, there is one more question for you. How do we ensure that harmful insect larvae is not present in the waste?
Harmful insect larvae is already present in the waste. So I hope that's his question. So in case there will be some insects present in the waste, if it is left for a quite few days or so, so that is definitely not a problem. So once the BSF population starts dominating, it will consume the required quantity of waste, and basically all kinds of biomass it will be able to consume and convert it into larvae biomass. So there has been no issue like that for us so far. So the most common pest that comes is the housefly. Housefly larvae will start coming up in waste. So once the larvae population starts dominating, so once we inoculate enough sufficient BSF larvae into waste, so that problem will be eliminated because the housefly larvae will not survive further. So this larvae will start dominating. BSF larvae will start dominating. So it will not be an issue, sir.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So, still, participants, we have time. If you have any questions, you can ask. So, and you can also raise your hand. We will unmute you. Meanwhile, there is one more question from Ajay. So he's asking what quantity of insect larva could be harvested per kg. I think we have already answered this question, right, Meenakshi ma'am?
Yes, yes.
So
So as I
Ajay, we have
mentioned,
already.
10 is to 1.
Yeah.
So from
Yes,
10
yes,
kg
please.
of waste, you can produce 1 kg of larvae. So that is the ratio, sir.
Yes, yes. I think DK Sharma, you want to ask any question? So participants, you can ask your any questions if you have, you can ask, sir. Meanwhile, yes, sir, can you please try that process you want to upload it, try you want to share with the participants, right? So it's helpful for them?
Yeah, I'm actually facing some issue because I don't use WebEx often. Let me just try this again. Give me one
Yes.
minute.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So I also have a question for Yash, sir, meanwhile.
Yes, ma'am. You can ask.
Yeah. So, sir, so in our case, since we're doing waste management, so will our project be considered additional or is it not? Since if this is our source of revenue, so we're doing this as in business. So will this be considered as in, shall will we be able to, apply for carbon credits or no?
Got it. I have limited information about this and happy to read more and come back. But what I gauge is to get additionality, the project should not be profit generating initially. So this should only get profitability once carbon credits are sold so that it actually helps the business scale. Secondly, there should be an incentive sharing with the farming community or with the smallholders group within India. So community welfare angle is also very important. And if you are able to do that at scale and engage the community and ensure that this practice scales across at least 10,000, 20,000 farmers, then it becomes a lucrative opportunity of registering a carbon project.
Got it, sir. Thank you. So, at what scale should we start thinking about this? Because I'm pretty sure the registration fee is like pretty high. So, what is the minimum scale that we can start thinking about it, if there's any such number?
So the way I look at scale is basically we have to first identify the credit potential per acre or per kilogram of waste. And then we have to look at how much waste or how many acres we are able to cultivate. That would give us, let's say within a year span, how much carbon credits we can generate. That is the first step. Second step is identifying the price of that carbon credit. Every carbon credit is unique based on the technology used. So in this case, once the larvae is reducing the environmental footprint, you have to estimate by discussing with potential buyers how much are they willing to pay. So credit potential multiplied by price gives you a potential revenue. Cost of registering a carbon project and getting it verified ranges roughly from 60 lakhs to 1 crore upfront. So this is a sizable investment. So your revenue should be much higher than this. So that means the scale should be much higher for you to take up the registration process.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So,
I'm also able to share my screen now.
yes,
So I'll
yes,
just explain that satellite data collection.
yes,
So as I
sir. Yes.
mentioned earlier, that there are various wavelengths or bands of information that are emitted by the satellite. So again, this is very scientific, so no worries if you don't understand. Even I don't understand it fully. And we have PhDs with about 25 years of experience working with NASA who do this technology for us. Um, so we look at surface scattering, double bound scattering, volume scattering, and also look at backscattering wave, by which we are able to get insights into various aspects of the crop, such as crop length, canopy cover, crop size, density of biomass, soil hydrology, water table length, how much water and various salinity, pH of soils are present over there. So all of the data that we collect is fed into our AI or biogeochemical model. Our model is based on ORIZA, which is developed by the International Rice Research Institute. So it is a globally accepted model. So the first image on the left hand side that you see are the satellite raw image, the strips that we see from this various spectrums of wavelengths that we collect. Then our models remove the green color patch or the part that is not necessary for us, and we get information on each pixel, whether the whatever wavelength that we are looking for. So we have only isolated blue over here, and each pixel represents 1 acre of farmland. So these are very high resolution images. Then, based on our model insights, we are able to look at a field level. If this a field at that particular time was inundated, saturated, dried, or fully dried down, this helps us monitor and scale AWD MRV. For example, if it shows inundated, then our ground team actually goes ahead and verifies that the field was actually inundated, and same for dried. Currently, we're calibrating our model, so that's why we also collect on-ground evidences. But in future, we can just rely on this DMRV information. Secondly, by conducting these gas chamber assessment, so these gas chambers are put on both test and control sites. Test site is the project site, which is dried down twice or thrice during the season. Control site is the conventionally flooded site that you see behind this. Here what happens is we just measure methane fluxes or gas fluxes every day across the whole season. We do this for 15-20 minutes each time, and then we send the data to the lab for being analyzed. And accordingly, we are able to differentiate between the test and control versus flooded and the dried down field to see what was the methane reduction and correspondingly CO2 equivalent reduction. So we get that data. It's always like a bell-shaped curve. It's not a perfect number. And using further analysis, we are able to say with a lot of confidence that we are able to reduce about 1.7 tons of CO2 per hectare per season. And it's higher in Kharif rather compared to Rabi. Rabi is a shorter duration season.
Yes, I think Santosh Rama, I think he has asked this question. So hope it is useful for all of you. There is one more question from DK Sharma. So we shall continue with the question. So how do you suggest to work with farmers regarding carbon credits? Yes, sir.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, we have to first identify in what aspect do we want to work with farmers. Like we chose to work on rice methane specifically because this was a problem very important to us. Also, our team had a background to execute sustainable farming projects in India, but you can choose to do some other technologies as well. So there's a lot of research available online. There are a lot of consultants who have helped companies register carbon projects. So it's quite easy to identify various registries methodologies, and then you can go to the farmer. My only suggestion would be once you have finalized the project, then go to the farmer with a concrete method of introducing it. Because we need to really care and support our farmers and educate them about this. We can't confuse them about various technologies, and we cannot leave them in expectation of revenue. So once we launch a project, we have to make sure that the farmer also get a share of revenues from it.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So, DK Sharma, I think you got the answer. Oh. So, Priyesh, he's asking, how will you measure how much carbon captured by CC project technology?
Yes, I just showed that from our gas chamber and satellite how we are doing this. Other way, there are also IPCC guidelines. This is a well-known methodology, and we basically there's a calculation based on methane fluxes and number of dry downs, soil hydrology, soil alkalinity, pH, and the type of soil, farming activity. So there are multiple variables that go into the equation, which ultimately helps us calculate emission reduction potential per hectare per season.
Yes, thank you, sir. So, participants, if you want to ask questions directly to the speakers, we'll unmute you. You can raise your hands also. And there is, can you please explain briefly difference between golden and Vera standards?
So there is very less difference between the two. These are both internationally accepted standards. They are the largest in the world. These are non-governmental institutions, so they operate like an NGO. And currently, I think Vera is slightly larger than Gold Standard, although Gold Standard is considered to be more premium. So getting into Gold Standard is tougher compared to Vera. But having said that, both are amazing methodologies to work with and globally accepted in every country and every buyer.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir. So, I'll take two more questions since we have 3 more minutes. So there is one more question from Bhaskar. Any stubble burning alternative for application in carbon credit? A smooth sea con makes skilled sailors problems as are part of everyone's life. We pause to and move on as like at least turtles to reach destination of light.
Yes, stubble burning is a major problem in India, specifically in the states of Punjab and Haryana. We are actually working with the government of Punjab and a NGO called the Nature Conservancy. This is a project ranging about 5 lakh hectares of farmland across Punjab and Haryana. And what we are doing is we prevent and educate farmers to not burn stubble, and instead we are creating capacity to help them collect the stubble and convert it into biochar. Biochar, as you might be aware, biochar is like a fortified nutrient that can be put back into soil based on certain conditions to further improve the fertility of the soil, that later reduces the dependency on commercial inputs or chemical inputs. And biochar is just one mechanism. Second is conversion into biofuels such as bioethanol that can be used in the crude oil industry and also cook stove projects. So there are multiple crop stubble management or CRM activities going across the India.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So I'll take up one last question. So could I find any resources regarding the different credit prices? Also, do we have anything for other agri affiliated systems such as aquaculture?
Yes, I think researching online would be helpful. There are a lot of databases available online that can give you price discovery. There are also paid resources or dashboards that give you very in-depth research on the carbon credit prices. Um, I am not aware of the aquaculture credit prices. I haven't looked into it, but this should be available quite readily.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir. Hope I have taken up all the questions. So, thank you, participants, for all your questions. So, since we are short of time, I cannot take all your questions. So, no problem. Still, if you have any questions, you can contact the speakers. So, the speaker details we already shared in the chat box. And also, if you miss something interesting regarding the today's webinars, and if you want to rewatch the webinar, the YouTube link for watching the webinar is also given in the chat box. And Apart from this, also we have exciting update from managed side. So this year cohort 12 applications are open. So interesting students, entrepreneurs, startups across India. If you have innovative idea and the idea that's serving the farming community, don't wait, just go and apply for it. The link is shared in the chat box, and also it is available in all our social media handles. So to receive such interesting updates that's happening, stay tuned to our social media handles and do not forget to follow us on social media. So along with this also, as we are celebrating 5 years of online excellence of our Saturday webinar, we have published recently a Managed Extension Next Good Practice Bulletin on Agri-Startup Ecosystem webinars for multi-stakeholders. So the link to download the bulletin shared in the chat box, and you can download it and you can share it with your friends and all the colleagues. So before concluding the session, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to both the speaker for your informative session and for your patience to answer all the questions. I would like to thank my director, Dr. Saravanan Rasar, also, who is the main pillar behind the idea of these 213 webinars, and all my team members for hosting this event successfully. Do not forget to give the feedback of this webinar. The link is shared in the group, and also do not forget to register for upcoming webinar. See you next week with another exciting topic. Thank you so much, yes sir, and Meenakshi ma'am.
Thank you, Meenakshi.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Jain. It's nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
Dr.
for
Rahelia and
participating.
managed team for hosting us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all participants.